So I'm sitting here for my second interview for my leadership and ministry project. Why don't we start with you introducing yourself and telling us how old you are?
My name is Craig Ogilvie, and I am 55 years old.
Perfect. So this is for the second video interview, which is for a leader between the ages of 41 and 60. Um, so would you mind sharing what your leadership role is and what kind of responsibilities that role entails?
So currently, I am the director for accountability courts in Henry County, and that's uh, my main job is that I direct um, programming for those who are justice involved, facing criminal action, but who have addictions, mental illness, or veterans with both. And I lead a team of people. I am over budgets, um, and um, I'm also the liaison and coordinator for a multidisciplinary uh, conglomerate of professions in the criminal justice field in relation to this program.
Perfect. When you say conglomerate professions, what do you mean by that?
So I coordinate um, interaction between law enforcement, attorneys, treatment professionals, um, you know, case management teams and things like that. And I help um, ensure that all of those extra positions are functioning well in the program because they have their main priorities, and then they come together and help support us in our project.
Okay, okay. So what kind of training or preparation did you have to do for this role as director?
So when I came into the role, there was not a formalized model of training. Um, Today there is, and in order to be a coordinator or a director of an accountability court, you have to go through the UGA's School of Business. They have joined with the uh, Council of Accountability Court Judges to create a curriculum that involves finance, leadership components, um, and several other things that help prepare a person to be in this role.
Hmm.
I had my training through life experiences, and so everything from working in real estate mortgage, being in management at Xerox Business Services, and just other life jobs. Of course, being in the criminal justice system, working in the prison system and probation and law enforcement. All of that skill set prepared me well for this particular job.
Hmm. So one thing that I've been thinking through, doing the director training is they want us to feel um prepared. They want us to feel um just like ready to go. Like so when BJ stepped into directorship, he didn't do the director training because like the program didn't exist. So when I asked him this next question, he said absolutely not, and then he laughed. But did your training or did your past experiences leave you feeling adequately prepared for your role?
For me, yes. And I say that uh, it was almost a perfect fit. And I think that was by design. When you go through life, it's so unique. When you think about stories you read in the Bible, you've got decades of history compressed into two or three chapters, and we see that short story there with all its parts and pieces that make sense. When you're in the story, it really doesn't make sense. So for me, you know, I wasn't the kind of person that had the type of vision to say, okay, I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to do this and this in life, and then I'm going to have this end result that gives me whatever I need. No, um, uh, I have to my chagrin, allowed life to kind of happen to me in certain areas. But looking back, I've seen the hand of God lead me. So he allowed me and brought me into, I could just lay it out just like those 3 or 4 chapters in a Bible story where God brought me to a place to acquire skills and understanding and learning and experience that when I took on this job, it was a perfect fit. As a matter of fact, the judge asked me one question basically. He had already known who I was. So the interview was, can you do budgets? And I laughed. I said, Judge, I've managed $1.5 million budget with profit and loss statements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, good. When can you start? And we were about to enter grant season at that time. So I felt very confident when I stepped into the role for what it was needed at that time. The challenges came later.
Mm. Well, you mentioned it being a perfect fit. You mentioned the hand of God. So that kind of leads to this next question really well. But how prominent or influential was the voice and prompting of the Holy Spirit in kind of leading you to step into this role?
That's a good question. People talk about hearing the voice of the Lord and the prompting of the Holy Spirit. I probably, when I look back on some of those moves I made in life and changing trajectories, some of it I felt, and your mother and I have talked about this. There are times when I feel this prompting or leading, I guess you could say. It's a sense of change. Mm-hmm. I have no idea how to describe that other than I know I'm entering into a season where I think change is coming. And it's almost, it's kind of uncanny because in a couple of times in life, usually it's about 12 to 18 months later, the change pops up and the opportunity is there. But I get that sense. And that's happened a couple of times with this. I think the last move was the most walking in the dark, and that was moving out of real estate and mortgage, going to something I had no clue whatsoever, and that was working in a prison. Mm. And most people ask me, "What are you doing?" Well, everybody was just sitting there confused. Why are you doing this? I said, "I don't know." But it just seemed like the right move, and it was.
Yeah. Well, this walking in the dark or kind of walking into a completely unrelated field definitely sounds like a challenge. But what are some of the other challenges that you've had to face as a leader?
So I'm thankful that the Lord, when he put me in the position of coming to be a coordinator for a drug court, most of that was just the nuts and bolts of stuff. That was the easy part. That's the part I already have the skill set in. The challenge was being a leader, and I'd already had been a leader of a team while I was a manager at Xerox, because I had to deal with HR stuff. I had to deal with the project management and all of that kind of stuff. But this took it to a different level. I had all the training of how to do it at a thorough way, not shooting from the hip, kind of being a boss. But when you're leading other leaders, it can be very difficult and a challenge because they challenge you. But process and principle-led leadership, those are important concepts to remember, because if you follow your process or you follow principle-led leadership, you can face those challenges. And leading other people has been probably the toughest challenge. Hmm.
What lessons from your past experiences or your past preparation did you pull from to face those challenges?
Definitely. Well, for me, uh, I think my biggest help was sitting under other leaders who shared their experiences. So it gave me some hope that I wasn't, that one, I had the ability to do it. Uh, People talk about natural born leaders, and some people have that type A, take charge kind of innate personality. Um, I don't have that, but I'm thankful that leadership is something that can be learned. It's not just a born with trait. And so by me discovering that, I could learn from other leaders when they tell their stories. Then I can say, okay, I'm faced with this challenge. Let me try a principle that they, or skill they employed, and it works. And so it's just that trial and error. It's not any easier, I don't think, but it it there's a confidence that comes along. So using some of those maybe smaller instances I had when I was a manager at Xerox, and allowing the corporate structure to guide how I handled a situation gave me the some skill, and then learning from other leaders the confidence to employ this, um, and it works out.
Mhm. Also, I just got a pop-up from Zoom telling me that I now have 8.5 minutes left in the Zoom call because I have the free version of Zoom. So we're gonna move right on to the next question.
Okay.
Um, what would you say is the hardest moment you've experienced as a leader?
Hardest moment's got to be terminating somebody. Not from they're out there just making a mess of things and they're belligerent or anything like that. Would be an easy termination. It's like, get out. But when you have to, and a manager, that's easy. Here's your pink slip, hit the door, see ya. Uh, as a leader, when I care about the person and they're just not the right fit and things are not going well, that was the most difficult, and each time has been the most difficult challenge for me as a leader.
Hmm. So this next question, I mean, we're Pentecostal, so we operate from a Pentecostal framework or mindset. But how did you feel the empowering of the Holy Spirit to enable you to handle those challenges?
Well, a long time ago, I was thankful for stories again in the Bible, um, learning the phrase "help me lead these people." I prayed that. Solomon prayed that, and I did that almost daily when I first became a manager because I had no clue what I was doing, and so I still do that. That helps me to accomplish, the goal and do it in a proper way. I'm sorry. I think I sidetracked myself. What was the what was the question?
It was how did you feel the Holy Spirit
Oh
empowering you to
yes.
handle challenges?
So definitely yes, and I believe he has done that and given me the peace to know that I work for him ultimately. Even though I'm at this job, if I'm focused on accomplishing his will, I'm going to accomplish this goal and do it in the right manner.
Hmm. Move away from the harder side of leadership. What would you say are some of the rewards or some of the high moments of your time in leadership?
Definitely when you've got those who are under your care and direction, who appreciate you, thank you, and even after tough times, they understand your heart. That's important. That's a huge reward. Having those in leadership above you, um, to reach out unsolicited and say, "Hey, we've recognized what you're doing, and you're doing a great job," or whatever, or promotion that comes from that. Those have been the best things for me. Helps motivate.
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person, this is a job, I got to do it, and I have to do it well. Um, uh, that's the expectation. But when times are tough, it's nice when you have somebody say, "Hey, you're doing a great job."
Yeah. Um, moving to the next question, in a similar train of thought, what would you say has been your favorite or most impactful moment as a leader?
I can say for me, and this is specific to what I'm doing here, that is when I have someone who I haven't walked their walk. So I'm talking about somebody who's got a substance use disorder and whose life has been a total train wreck. But they graduate the program, and they stay in contact with me and they tell me the impact I had on their life. And they're still living 10 years later, a changed life. That is the crowning moment for me.
Hmm. So our final two questions. This first one is, what have you learned about God while serving as a leader?
That he is he's going to help me when I make stupid decisions, and I'm going to bear the fruit of that. And so God's not going to get in there and necessarily change it up just to protect me, so to speak. He's going to allow me to learn from that, but he is going to protect me when it's very important. Um, and that God is there waiting to be a resource, but I've got to come to him and ask for it.
Hmm. That's good. And then, oh, we still have tons of time. My final question for you, what advice would you give to somebody my age who is working to step into a leadership role?
I think for me, probably would have helped me in my trajectory. Um, I consider myself, I've said it before, I think I'm a late bloomer in this area. Um, be a be around leaders, find them, hang around them, and we read that, but that's true. Read their stuff, talk to them, and just watch how they do things in life, and actually practice some of those things. And don't let life just happen to you. You go make it happen.
Mm.
And that's something that you've done better than I've done. And that for that I'm very proud to see. But that would be my advice at your age. Set the goal, push for it, and find other leaders and learn from them early.
Mm. Cool. Well, that was my last question. So thank you for answering these. I'm glad we got them recorded this time on
My
round two.
pleasure.
So, but we still have a little bit of time before Zoom kicks me out of here. But do you have any final thoughts or final comments?
Um, Maybe just kind of adding on to that last question. I think uh, don't be afraid. Your grandfather, so my dad, your grandfather, was a risk taker, um, and I wish I were more like that. So don't be afraid of taking a risk, but predicate it, of course, with prayer and fasting. I think those are critical. Um, and if you do that, um, you know, somebody told me recently that you have a lot of bandwidth, and I think that's true. So